Welcome to the Tumbleweed Podcast, where we discuss an eclectic range of topics, including business, design, Texas culture, and everything in between.
We're two teachers that turned a side hustle into a nationally known apparel brand, and now we work with some of the biggest names in Texas. We strive to never stop exploring and continue to draw inspiration from our adventures.
So drift and explore or raise a glass. We're always ready to hang out and talk about the things that we love. So come roll with us as we drift and explore. Hey y'all, I'm Brian Wysong, the co-owner, founder of Tumbleweed Textiles, and here with me is my business partner, Jeb.
Hey, I'm Jeb Matalich. I am also a co-owner, and I am kind of in charge of the art and the creative side of Tumbleweed Textiles.
And which brings us to why we're here today. We're going to discuss a little bit about art and design, specifically with our business and what we do. So
it's right down my alley.
You know, a lot of times people come to me and ask, what do y'all do? And I have our little quick elevator pitch. You know, we are a Texas-inspired lifestyle and apparel brand. And they're like, oh, you're a T-shirt printer? And right there, I always stop and think, okay, I got to redefine who we are. And at the end of the day, our core competency is art and design. What we sell is not a T-shirt. It's an art. It's a masterpiece designed by the one and only across from me, Jeb. So,
yeah.
So with that said, how did we even come about creating art with our company?
Well, I think we can back up a little bit as far as my art background goes. You know, I became an artist, I guess, at a very young age. I won the second grade art contest in Texarkana, Texas, at Liberty Ialoo Elementary School. So I won that art contest in second grade. Had really good just elementary teachers at the time. I don't think we even had art in school back then. And I won first place, and my teachers were really good about, I guess, pumping me up about it, you know, like, oh, wow, that's so great, Jeb, you won the contest. So I feel like that's the kind of the moment that things changed for me. I had a lot of confidence in thinking that, okay, I'm actually good at something. This is like going to be my thing. And so ever since then, I really pursued art, pursued it all the way through, and didn't have my first art class until seventh grade. And so that's where I learned perspective, value, all kinds of stuff. Before that, I was just basically drawing images out of magazines and comic books and things. Then I got to high school and I took an Art 1 class, which is actually what I teach now. So I took an Art 1 class in ninth grade. And that was the only art class that I had in high school. I was focused mostly in high school on drafting, so mechanical drawing, engineering drawing, architectural drawing. That's what I did all 4 years. So that was kind of where I got my technical background. But then fast forward into college, I started out as an architecture major. Didn't really do much with the architecture. Step back. I switched majors after 2 years. Decided I wanted to get into education like my dad. He was a football coach and history teacher. So I decided I wanted to get back into athletics. And so after I got out of architecture school, or after that second year in college, that's kind of when I didn't have much art going on. So I kind of took a couple years off from like drawing and stuff because I had been so intensive the last 6 years building up to that. But then towards the end of my college years, I decided to kind of start doodling around with some of my art, and a lot of the art that I was doing back then was sports art. So I was drawing like, you know, sports pictures, like, you know, professional athletes and college athletes and stuff, and doing pen and ink drawings and watercolor and stuff. So that's kind of how my art background got in. So like I was saying, I was education, geography major. And then I went ahead and took the geography certification, the history certification, the PE certification. And I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get certified to teach art too. So I went and got my art certification too at the same time, just in case I ever had the chance or opportunity to teach art. Again, my background was just a few art classes, kind of a self-made artist, always doing art, drawing and stuff growing up, but not like a fine arts background, I guess you could say. So fast forward to a little bit further on, as I got a teaching.
So you're saying you're kind of a big deal, right?
I'm not kind of a big deal. At this point, I haven't had a whole lot of training in art. It's been more kind of learning on the fly.
You probably don't know this, but seventh grade art, I was the art student of the year.
Oh, wow.
back
did
at
not know
Crowley Middle School.
There you
All
go.
right. And it's because I made a marionette doll. I don't know if I just said that right, but it was of Rusty Greer, who played for the Rangers, my all-time favorite baseball player. But I made that, and I worked most of the year. I didn't really try that hard, but I remember drawing something with Ricky Williams, who played for UT at that point, which now all the Red Raiders would probably hate me for. But so it looks like we have 2 Artists of the Years right here on our team.
Wow, that's amazing. I did not know that about you, Brian. That's actually really cool.
So with that said, though, your background, also that's the foundation of how you got involved in art, how you got involved in design, your passion. But how has that leveraged or basically been the bridge to where we're at today as a company?
Right. And I think, I had a couple coaching jobs, and I did some teaching of history, and I picked up a couple art classes at a middle school when I taught at Garland. And I came to Frisco, taught Texas history, which I think played a big role in where we are today. I taught Texas history for 6 years, and then also was coaching, no art at the time. And then I came to Liberty High School, and that's when I began teaching art only. I got out of coaching and started teaching art. That's when I think things really kicked in for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I teach art. So this is really cool. So like in my free time, I need to be showing the students that I do art. And so I started creating more art, really started getting into painting, really started getting to in my pen and ink drawing and things like that. And so that's kind of when I met you at Liberty High School. And I was already kind of immersed in kind of trying to build up my own brand and do a lot of my own paintings and things like that. But I think that when we kind of made that connection, if you kind of look back, the Texas history that I taught, the art that I was teaching at the time, and then you coming to me, that it's kind of was a perfect storm as far as like where we are today. And it's kind of some of the themes that we follow, Texas themed stuff. And then also, the artistic part of that.
For sure. I always like to joke, I'm kind of like the agent of design. What that means is I can't design except for in 7th grade, of course.
Right.
But my wife, Hillary, is an artist. So I have an appreciation for the arts through photography and different mediums. And I remember when I first saw your art, it was your mixed media, which we'll discuss here in a second. But, backtracking, I've always had a passion for the arts. Rather, it's going Fort Worth. I'm from Fort Worth. The different art shows in downtown.
There's some great museums there too.
I just drew a blank.
Kimball
Art Museum. Field trips all the time there. But then the music side of it, and I always like to tell people my art's marketing. I always like taking the creative aspects of marketing and applying it to the arts. Finding creative ways to make what we do on social media, what we do in our design, to affect a human like a masterpiece of art. And I think that's what connected me to you when I saw some of your mixed media that you had on your website and your blog. I was like, man, this guy is ultra talented, and it's a different kind of art and style than I've ever seen. So what exactly is mixed media, and like how did you get into that medium?
Well, I guess the mixed media stuff is obviously it's where you use different medias. But at the time, I was using a lot of my photography. So I was kind of dabbling in photography, nothing special, just digital photography. Did use a Holga camera for a little bit, which was fun. But I would take my images through my travels, and whether it be landscapes or I was doing a lot of like motel signs and things at the time. So I'd take old sign photos and stuff. And then I've always been a collector, so I've been doing garage sales probably since college. And so I always pick up old maps. I was a geography major, so I love maps. And so I kind of put the two together. So I would take maps, old paper, old stuff that I'd find at garage sales, glue them down onto wood or paper or whatever, and then I would take my photos, and I had some acrylic transfer methods that I would use and looked up, and then would put my photos on top of these mixed, on these collages, I guess. And then you can also paint on top of it. So that's kind of what I was doing a lot of when we met, was mixed media stuff with maps, train schedules, collage of paper, and then also using my photography or my photos of old either Texas landmarks or motel signs and things on top. So that was kind of that was kind of finding my niche at that moment, I guess you could say.
And I think like when we first started, not only did that go into our design related to our t-shirts, but also our marketing. And I say that because if you remember, I remember the first time we had to create like a sign for a show. You know, you took that piece of a board and you painted Tumbleweed Textiles on it.
Right.
And there was a time when we were creating a kind of like a mixed media box that I wanted to send out for press purposes, press kit. We took a box and you basically, it was a paper mache, different maps or pieces on there. And then on top of it, painted or sketched out Tumbleweed Textiles.
Right.
And so I think when I saw your art, not only did we think of, okay, how can we apply this to a product, but how do we apply that to the whole vibe and look of our whole company? And how can we take our brand and not make it look overly polished and perfectly clean, but have a little bit of that Texas rugged mixed media vibe to it? And I know you mentioned like garage sales and estate sales and junking, and but what other inspirations, I guess, do you take that applies to your art as it relates to your personal art under Junkie Trinkets, but also and as an artist under Tumbleweed Textiles?
Right. I think you hit it on the head. I mean, I'm not like a fine artist in a way, like, you know, I am using junk. I'm using old paper. I'm using old books and maps and things. And then my work is not always perfect. And so I think, like you said, like when we first started our website and stuff, we were still using actually kind of trying to have that look of layered effects of maps and photography that we did. But getting like to your question, I think just inspiration wise, it's so easy for me, just being a Texan and moving around so much, and then through travels and stuff, I get inspiration all over. And you start thinking about Texas things. It's, you know, the food, the music, the travel, the road trips, the state parks, you know, the fishing, the outdoor activities. All those things have, you know, cool, unique, artistic elements to them if you can, you know, look beyond just the surface area of them. So I think tying all that kind of stuff together into our company just made total sense. I mean, that's one thing I think that's cool about us. I think we're pretty authentic. It's not like we're trying to be somebody that we're not. I don't feel like I'm trying to make art like someone else. I'm just making art the way that I know and the things that I like, and just tying those kind of things into that. So it was kind of an easy transition when we started the company, kind of what our theme or what our look was going to be early on. Was just kind of taking some of your ideas and then some of my artistic ideas and my style and kind of merging it together.
Right. Because also I come from the background of more strategy and flows and processes. You are true artists. You know, you design and you create out of your passions and your life experiences. And I always tell the team, there's a kind of in my opinion, this is my own personal little definition, is there's a difference between art and design. To me, art is the overflow of inspiration, whereas design is a strategic piece of art done at targeting a purpose, a goal, or target audience. As we've taken your art and applying it to, you know, our products at Tumbleweed Textiles, how has it been for you as a true artist? And maybe it's utilizing our team, but how has it been as we've gained customers and retailers and custom clients, having to take your art and tailor it to be more design focused to reach an audience or reach the goals that our customer has, you know?
Right. And I think that's something I learned early on, or it took me a little while because, I was just like, I was all over the place with my art. I was like, oh, I like this. I kind of have a short attention span. So I like this style. I like this style. So you kind of reeled everything in. You're like, listen, what's your main core style that you like? You know, and you kind of you taught me basically about the branding part, the design part. I'm not a designer. You know, I've kind of learned to become a better designer, I guess, because I was more of an artist creating art.
Right.
But I think you teaching me more about branding, like, hey, we need to have a purpose. Like, we're doing this, we need to create art that fits this. And what's the point? Like, I do something, but like, well, what's the point of that? Who's that going to reach? What are we trying to say with this? So, you know, so like, oh, so you start thinking a little bit more strategically, you know, and I did, especially early on, like, what am I doing this for? And then, like you were saying, like, taking my own art style and then matching it with whether it's a custom client or whether it's like something seasonal that's coming up. Some of that stuff's easy, some of it's different, but I think a lot of the clients that we get or that come to us, they want that style that we started out originally. Right. They come to us because they like our style and what we're doing. And so a lot of times it's fun because they're like, we want you to do this for us, but in your style. Don't
Right.
change it. Don't make anything different and new about it. We want the style that you guys have been using, but twist it into our brand.
Right.
Make it work. So we deal with that a lot.
Which I think is kudos to you and Hillary, Fred, and our team.
Right.
And McKenna now on our team, creative team, is that we have become known for a true style. When people think of certain T-shirts or Texas culture and design, we're one of those brands that comes to mind. And I think that is pretty cool. The influence you and our team has played on Texas art. And with that said, how has it been working as a team? So to me, when I think of artists like yourself, I think of individuals, a one-man, one-woman show where you work on your canvas or your paper or whatever it might be. But the process of you being a true artist, let's say Hillary being more of a designer, what's that structure or process look like from idea, collaborative ideas, to putting it on paper and as you go to a final product that is being worn or utilized by a customer?
Right. I think, I think it's been a great situation. I think we're lucky to kind of have, Hillary, like you said, your wife, great eye for photography. She's a professional photographer. So she has a great eye for composition and that kind of stuff. And she has a graphic design degree as well. Fred is also a great, sculptor, 3D guy, also design, letterer, that kind of stuff. So, and then you kind of take some of the stuff that I've done, a little bit of photography, drawing and painting, and then the three of us kind of work together pretty well. And it's been neat because we'll have a concept of here's what we need to do. We need, whatever it might be, like a fishing shirt, okay, a fishing design for the spring. We'll all kind of, have ideas that we'll throw out there, kind of make some sort of bullet list of kind of what we want to see. A lot of times I kind of have an idea and I'll kind of drive that idea. Hillary, you'll start throwing out ideas. And then we'll start the sketching process. So we'll start kind of coming through with some graphics or visuals, and then kind of go from there, kind of work around. Oh, I like this part of it. Oh, can you change this? Can you change the font? Oh, what if we did this? And so having three sets of eyes on certain designs a lot of times has been really awesome, because there'll be something I'll get 75% finished and I'll throw it over to Hillary and she'll be like, oh, wait, what if we did this? I'm like, oh, perfect. Okay. Whatever she'll add, or I'll do or vice versa. Hillary will get something, pretty close to finishing, and I'll say, hey, what if we do this? So as a team, collaboratively, it's been really cool to work with people that maybe have a different style, or just someone it's how it is with anything. If you get just another set of eyes or just another person in there to kind of put their 2 cents in, can really make a big difference. And I think we've utilized that quite a bit with our team, and we all work together. But the cool thing is we're all starting to kind of learn each other's style. And so now it's less back and forth a lot of times. It's I kind of know what Jeb likes. I think this is going to be something that he's going to, so there's less revisions, I guess, than there used to be.
So when I think, as you know, my background is, used to work at a marketing agency. So I helped work with other artists. And there was always kind of a fight between the marketing sales team and the design art team, because the design art team would have a view of what looks good out of the inspiration of their heart or their personal opinions. And then the design sales team is like, no, that's not what the client wants. Right.
Right.
And I think one of the best things, and I know there's a lot of designers and aspiring entrepreneurs in the creative space that are listening to the podcast, and probably a big question they have is how do you create something that makes your client happy? And for you, what are some things when you're sitting in on a conference call with one of our big clients, big or small, what are some of the questions that you would ask or triggers that you need to find out to be able to then go to the table and get to designing to create something that our client might like?
Right. And I know a lot of, there's probably a lot of designers and stuff listening to this, and I've heard a lot of people speak on this as well, but you want to have some sort of outline to where you kind of almost have a questionnaire in a way, to where you have some bullet points that you want to make sure that you're on the same page with them. And then everyone knows the expectation. So obviously style, Colors are important, what their branding is. A lot of times these bigger clients, we get branding guides from them. And so we're able to kind of like look and see kind of what their brand is and then how we can take our style, tie it into that. Those are going to be important things. Just kind of what their goal is with it, I guess you could say. Because, designing for clients or doing like custom work, sometimes we have to be selective with who we want to work with sometimes because there's some certain, we get calls from people that want us to do like a shirt for their family reunion or something. It's like, we don't really do that. But then there's a brand that maybe is a good, high profile Texas brand that we feel like we can align well with. We just want to kind of on those meetings, just kind of ask questions like, what's the purpose? What colors are you looking? What's your timeline, your expectations? And then we kind of build a timeline or model around that and go from there.
Yeah.
So.
One thing, as we sit, in our new Frisco flagship store, we have a little conference table upstairs. So on a daily basis, I get to sit down and speak to our team, kind of as a creative director in the sense of marketing, not with you like you are with product. Yeah. And when we look at our custom clients, one of the things I always encourage the team to do is think of like a matrix, right? Like a line. On the far left is like uberly conservative. On the far right is uberly out of the box. And then the very center is like the most safest, like a Ralph Lauren t-shirt. I mean, a Ralph Lauren polo. It used to be in style, still is in style, probably will always be in style because it's a basic collared shirt. There's nothing about it that is unsafe, risky. And I always say try to design a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and a few in the middle, because the concepts that you would show a custom client is you're creating kind of the barriers and the playing field of where they go.
Yeah.
And like for us, because we're creating a product that also represents our brand, we're not like a custom marketing agency. People come to us because they want people to know that they're working with us. Most custom agencies, it's white label. You don't tell anyone who you worked with on your custom design. Yeah. We want to make sure it represents who we are and what we do. So we want to make sure, all the concepts we show represent us well. But you also want to give a flavor of each side, from risky to not risky, conservative, whatever. So it helps you when you go through your first round of revisions, allow the customer to come back and say, hey, I like that and that. So then you know which path you're going to go down on your second round of revisions to create the perfect masterpiece, which kind of goes into a question. The second question I know designers always ask is like, how do you get paid to do what you do? And I would venture to say the quicker you design and the quicker you get to the final product and deliver to the client, the more you get paid because you get paid for your time.
Right.
But for you as an artist, as a painter, as a mixed media artist, and of course with Tumbleweed Textiles, what's some encouragement or tips on other aspiring artists about how to, charge and get paid for what they do?
Yeah, this is like well, no pun intended, but like the $1 million question here. Designers are always curious about, how do you get paid? Artists, how do you get paid? Because I think that's one thing that artists don't know a lot about, and a lot of artists are not good business people. They just like to create, but then they don't know the business side of art, and it's something that I've had to learn as well. But there's some pretty set standards. There's a lot of books and websites and stuff that you can kind of get out there and look and kind of see what the going rate is for, a logo design or a t-shirt design, or you're going to, have a package of 5 t-shirt designs. We don't have to deal with that because we're work in house for the most part.
Right.
So the things that we design for the most part, probably like 90% of the things we design, we're going to use ourselves. And for the custom stuff, it just kind of depends on the situation. There's been a couple things where we've designed things for, for instance, like 7-Eleven. It was kind of a deal where they had a budget. We designed a certain number of shirts for them that fell in that budget, and it was, a good fair price and that kind of stuff. But then there's other things that we do for people that it's kind of more of a trade. It's like, we'll design this, and then then you'll do this for us. And so there's some simple things that we do that are more of a trade. So there's that aspect of it. I know when I was doing paintings and things, that was kind of one of my big deals, like, how do I charge for this painting?
Right.
What kind of value am I creating? So a lot of times people would charge by the square inch.
Mhm.
So the bigger the painting, you could do it that way, or you could, tie in how much time you're spending. So I don't have a set answer as far as like how you charge. I just would say kind of research, with the internet now, you can get on there and basically Google and find out kind of what the going rates for most things are. And then if you're, in design class or school, I'm sure that they're covering all that information too.
Right.
But I think it's more about value. Like what value are you bringing?
Right.
A lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's so expensive. I can't afford that. But we make this, we put the time into it. We're giving you value with our name backed behind it. It means something. It's going to be valuable for you, and it's going to be something that you couldn't probably produce on your own.
Yeah. So when I taught marketing, one of the things that I would always do is I'll stand up in front of the class. This was always the entry level, question to my marketing classes. I would hold up a watch, and I'm sure I saw this at some conference at some point, but I would hold up my watch and say, how much is this worth? And people would shout out, kids that like, oh, you own Tumbleweed Textiles, you must be rich. Or, oh, you sell Texas shirts, you must be poor. You're a teacher, you're poor. So their answers would always be based off of how rich they thought I was, which I don't wear expensive watches. So kids would say $500, $1,000, $1, $2.
Right.
I'm like, okay, how much is the value? Not how much is it worth, but what's the value? And then they all get quiet. And I would say, well, it's whatever someone's willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I say that because from the marketing side, a lot of artists, I think, sometimes overvalue their art. And that sounds like a really hard thing to say. But if you're putting a dollar amount on it and no one's willing to pay for it, you're going to go out of business really quick.
Right.
But on the flip side, there's also a lot of artists that undervalue, and then they forget to think about cost of goods,
right?
Gas, the cost of the frame, the cost of the plastic that covers the frame, shipping charges, sales tax, insurance, all the things that you might have to pay.
Right.
And so from my perspective, the value of your service or the product you're selling needs to first cover the cost of good. Then you need to look at, okay, per hour, what is it you're hoping to make? And so then you break up your profit based off of, okay, I spent 2 hours on this. Okay, you want to be $50 an hour? So it's right there, it's $100 plus your cost of goods is now what you charge for that product. And then over time, as you go, like us, I mean, think about it. Do you remember what we sold our first t-shirts for?
I do. I think it was around like $15 to $17, somewhere in there.
15 plus sales tax, right? And I thought that was an expensive shirt at the time.
Right.
And we sold it, and they sold. Maybe at a few flea market trade shows, like people are like, oh, that's too expensive.
Yeah.
But people bought it. And then we jumped from after we gained a clientele, we got some wholesalers. We realized on the wholesale side, they wanted to buy it at a lot cheaper rate, but at a larger quantity. Do you remember what we bumped our price to? Like 20, I think 20,
21, 20. Yeah. Somewhere around there.
And then I remember then we got a wholesale rep, I believe. And like, no, bump the prices up to 25. I was like, that's ridiculous. But our sales went through the roof.
Right.
And it's because the moment we put a $25 price point on what was a $20 shirt, people thought the value greatly increased, even though it was the same garment.
Right.
From the same artist. Mm-hmm. Cost of goods did go up a little bit with inflation.
Right.
But I also, going to what I was saying is overvaluing or undervaluing, sometimes it's about managing perception. Is sometimes putting a good dollar amount on it is going to be what, lack of a better term, manipulates or manages the perception of your audience. Yeah. So I say that. So from your point of view as an artist, what would be your encouragement to other artists that are out there, as they're not necessarily what their price point is, but how to not overvalue or undervalue their skill, their craft?
Right. Like you said, I think there's so many artists that do undervalue, because I'll go to little art shows and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, those are really cheap for the quality that they're using. So I think just sometimes people just need to, like, if they're flying off the shelves at, $25 a print, then like flying off the shelves, you can't keep them, then you might want to think about bumping it up and making it more, like more of a scarcity type of deal, or like, something that's going to hold a little more value because you're probably going to be able to get that. Like I said, pricing is tough. I just hate to see artists that are undervaluing in their work. And then on the other hand, there's some people that are like, oh yeah, this painting is like $10,000. And well, no one's going to, you did it in one night.
Yeah.
It's not 10,000, it doesn't have value to me unless you've established yourself as someone who's creating something that's amazing and it's gotten a lot of good reviews and all that kind of stuff. And it's something that's popular and sought after, but you kind of got to find that middle ground of, make sure you're charging enough and you're getting something out of it and making it worth your time. But then also don't be so high on your horse that you're overpricing things and it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to get rid of. You've got to find that happy medium and find the demand. I mean, it's all about the demand. It's just like business, supply and demand.
Well, the thing, it's taken us 10 years to get to where we're at.
Right.
So if you were to take our product, T-shirts, and truly consider it an art, which I do, the design on it is a masterpiece. People don't understand. It's like a walking billboard. I mean, people are wearing your art and they're wanting to show the world your art on their shirt and on their chest. And people want to represent your art, which is pretty awesome.
Right.
And it's taken us 10 years, and day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, we've slowly increased the dollar amount because value isn't just in the product, but it's also the branding around it. And that's the reason I always say branding and marketing is my art, because you got to figure out how to tell a story and showcase your art in a way that someone wants to connect to it, buy it, and take it home and put it up on their mantle.
Yeah.
And so packaging and different things like that, what are some tips to artists beyond just creating the design, creating the product, but the other things like packaging, social media, content? What is a way an artist should get themselves out there to add value to their brand?
Wow, that's a big question. I think, again, it's something I learned a lot from you, just the branding aspect of it. Like, we kind of picked our set colors that we were going to use in our branding a few years ago, and we've, you stay consistent with that. It kind of is something that's cohesive that's going to bring everything back together. I was talking to McKenna earlier, one of our employees and another artist on the team, about like a palette, like using a color palette that's consistent in your artwork, and then kind of making that something that's going to be recognizable for your art. But I just think that you can't be all over the place. If you really want to get someone's attention, it's got to have some sort of unity. So like your website needs to go along with what your shirts look like, the images on your website. I see so many brands and artists that they have this really cool, fun art, but then you look at their banner on their website, it's just like, black with white lettering and just something really boring. It doesn't really portray that. And like you said, the packaging, we ship our stuff out in bags that have some of our art on it. So right. Everything ties together. So I think if you're an artist or a designer that's kind of jumping in the field and wanting to do something for yourself, is just kind of staying consistent. Think about what your style is and what you're wanting to portray in your art, and then try to find little pockets in everything that you do right. that ties that in. So even if it's something small, make right. sure that your website, your packaging, your postcards, anything, email marketing, there's some sort of tie-in to where everything is consistent.
Right. Well, I think you nailed it, because another medium of art is musicians. And I'm a part of an organization here in Frisco that oversees over 200 or so musicians. And we have this event called Music on Main. And we have incredible artists. I mean, they're sitting there singing and playing. People are throwing in tips.
Oh, yeah.
But the number one question is, what's their name? How do I find them?
Yeah.
And some of these artists are so focused on their product, their singing, that they forget to tell people where to find them.
Yeah.
And I think as an artist, you nailed it. I mean, you make sure. I know artists tend to be humble and not as outgoing as like a marketing, sales, lawyer kind of person that wants to tell the world who they are. But as an artist, you cannot forget to tell people and show people where to find your art, even if it's on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. What's the art medium? Is there any like sales social media for artists?
Well, I mean, I use Instagram a lot with
Okay.
art. I mean, that's who I kind of follow along. I think there's Behance and some other things like that, but you nailed it. I mean, artists, like you said, are sometimes humble. You just got to learn to like sell yourself.
Yeah.
That took me a while to figure that out too, because I was like, oh, I don't really, you know. Then I was like, no, someone told me basically that like, you need to get business cards. And so like I got some business cards from Moo, and they had like a little keychain deal, and they were like little small cards. I put my art on them, and I had them on my keychain. So if someone started asking me about my art, or like they're like, oh, do you have a website? I could just pull out a card and give it. So I started learning, sell yourself. Don't be shy. If people are interested enough to ask you about things, about your art, you know,
Yeah.
be ready to show them and have a landing page, have somewhere where they can go and actually see it.
Yeah.
Sell yourself. You know, don't be scared to step out and do that. I know, you know, it's kind of scary at first, but let's get out there. You know, now it's a little bit easier with social media since it's kicked up so much. Everybody has their own Instagram page or Facebook page, things like that, where you can showcase, but don't be scared to get out there and sell.
So the reality is we've been doing this for 10 years as a company. Now 11 years almost now.
Yeah.
You as an individual artist have been doing it for many more years than that. I hope we as an organization company has inspired other artists to pursue their passion, pursue their career. I think a lot of times people have a passion for art, but they don't pursue it as a career or even a side hustle. Is there any, and you didn't know I'm going to ask this question, so sorry to throw you on the spot, but is there an artist or two that has really inspired you along your artist journey?
Oh, wow. I think early on it was a guy named Opie Otterstadt, and you might have seen him at the ballpark. He would always be in the art gallery, like painting out there. That guy, oh my gosh, he's signed his artwork, Opie. He would do these really cool paintings. Love that guy. More recently, I guess in my late college years, early adult years, a lot of the stuff with Santa Fe, a lot of the landscape artists. One of my friends, Jennifer Cavan, a great landscape artist. She really inspired me. And then more recently, he's become a friend of mine now, but John Flaming out of Dallas. He does some
awesome.
really cool, like illustrative, like cowboy stuff and Western art. I mean, oh my gosh, his stuff is amazing. And it's really cool. I've actually become friends with him recently over the last few years. But just his style is so cool. I mean, yeah.
Talk about it. He values his art.
He does.
Because I would love to buy one. I just can't afford it. But every time I go on to that's so expensive. That's going to be there next week. He sells his stuff like crazy.
Oh yeah, he has collectors that'll buy that stuff up, and so he does make prints, which are a little bit more affordable. But he's kind of, you know, like we were talking earlier, he's someone that's kind of built up his name, his brand, and there's a value to his artwork because
100%.
it's so, you know, unique and people want to have it, and so he's built up that price point where he can do that.
Yeah, and I think he's just involved. I mean, I saw him at the KHY Texas Music Revolution. I see him out and about meeting people. You know, that's, I think, the other element for a lot of artists. Sometimes artists that I've known want to stay to themselves, but just make sure they get out and meet people and introduce themselves and just make connections with other artists and even business people out there.
Yeah. Shout out to John Flaming. Look him up. He's awesome.
So one last, I guess, question I have that I don't know if we really covered, but I'm always intrigued by this as I talked with Hillary, my wife, and is how has your art evolved from day one to where we're at today? How's it evolved to where you're at right now?
Wow. I think early on I was very technical. Like I said, when in high school I was architecture, engineering, drawings. So everything was really tight and technical. A lot of rulers, a lot of circle templates, compasses, things like that. But even in my sports art, I was like, it was real technical, like really, you know, drawings that were really tight. I think I've loosened up actually a lot, and I've gotten a little bit more to where I'm not so, you know, tight with my art. I still have a little aspects of that in my artwork, which I still like, but I just think I've kind of evolved with loosening up, obviously, and then also just kind of growing. I mean, as you get older, you kind of realize, but you kind of find your style too. So you kind of want to find that niche and stick with it. But I'm a little bit more open now, and I think by teaching art, like teaching like kids how to use value and how to, you know, do perspective and all those kind of things, like since I'm immersed in it every day at school, it's just kind of one of those things that just kind of helps keep you inspired. It helps keeps you up with your skills, and incorporate that kind of stuff in my artwork. So before I was teaching art, I wasn't always immersed in it, but now that I am teaching art, I do incorporate a lot more of that stuff and think about more about composition and colors and color theory and how this is going to work together. Whereas before, maybe I wasn't doing as much of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm proud to feel like I don't sell T-shirts, but that we're in the business of art and design. And I love that we support other artists, other curators as they grow, from students that you've taught. Our whole team are former teachers. But as I summarize some of your points, and this is what I'm most proud of with our company, is I think so many artists, businesses, and brands go out there and try to copy the other one, copy the other brand, other company that's successful. I think what has made your art, Hillary, McKenna, Fred, our team's art so successful is authenticity.
No doubt.
And it's out of passion. It's true art. And it's not art that we've copycatted or done to mimic others, but it's truly who we are and what we do and what we believe in, from our morals, our values, our passions, and our lifestyles. But we're able to translate that and just communicate it out effectively to people so that they want to have a piece of that art to wear. So kudos to you and our team. I'm very proud that I get to work with y'all, creating amazing art and products that people love.
I'm just glad that, this is just such a cool opportunity that we've had. I mean, we've been so blessed the last 11 years to where we created a career out of art and creating art, which is a dream. So it's awesome.
Well, obviously, y'all know we're Tumbleweed Textiles. You can find us at ShopTWT on Instagram. But I want you to give a quick shout out. Where can people find you on Instagram, your personal?
My personal is Junkie Trinket, at Junkie Trinket.
Okay.
And then I have another one where I do a lot of my art. It's more like pen and ink type stuff. It's called Jebediah Texan.
Okay. Y'all need to go check his stuff out. He is legit. And so go follow him, follow our company, of course, and just, again, know as you walk away from here is, design and art is amazing. And if you're an artist, don't be scared. Pursue your passion, but stay true to who you are. And hopefully this podcast gave you a little piece of inspiration or education on pursuing what you love to do.
All right. Adios, y'all.
Thank y'all.